On the left, you'll see a section for expenses. Click the Create button in the upper right corner of that section. Enter a name for the report. For this example, we'll call it June Monthly Mileage. You will see an Import Pre-Approval button at the top. You can ignore this as it does not apply to in-state mileage. Next is the Pay Me In section, which defaults to US dollars. You cannot change this. The next two sections are for the start and end date of these expenses. Use the calendar buttons to select the dates. I only traveled for about a week, so I'll pick June 2nd to June 7th. Next is the business purpose. I traveled to Newport for meetings. Business purposes should always relate to the needs and goals of the college. Next is the report type. This will affect the following screens, but for this example, we'll select monthly mileage. Next is location. Not to be confused with where you travel to, this section is always going to be your home campus where you work. I work at the Knight campus, so I will select Warwick, Rhode Island. Finally, you select the fiscal year. In most cases, you'll select the current year, but that can depend on when the expense is processed. Following that, you'll see address and direct deposit. These should already be filled out, but double check to make sure they are correct. Once you've verified that everything is accurate, select Save at the upper right-hand corner of the expense report. Now a new screen will be brought up on the right where you will be able to add the specific trips to the expense report. Under Add Expenses, select the Create New button to begin the first expense. Because we selected monthly mileage for our report type, the following expense options are available: mileage, parking, and tolls. First, we are going to select mileage and add our first trip. This will bring up a new screen similar to the first one. This is just the mileage for one trip. The date section will autofill with the first date we selected. In this case, it's June 2nd, and we'll leave it as is. Press the calendar button if you want to change it. Next is the Spent section, where the total cost is put. You won't be able to edit that section directly, but it'll be filled out automatically when we calculate the mileage. After is the business purpose, which should autofill with what was entered in the initial screen. You can edit if you need to, but Newport Meetings is fine for this instance. Next is the description box that will automatically fill when we calculate the total mileage of this trip. After that is the reimbursement rate that is predetermined by the state of Rhode Island. You won't be able to change this field. Next is where we'll calculate the miles for the trip. To the right of the section, click on the car icon that says Calculate Mileage. This will bring up a new screen with places to enter addresses and a map that will update. For this example, I started at the Knight campus and drove to the Newport campus. So I'll put Warwick for the first address and Newport for the next one. Right now, it's at over 25 miles, and you can see the updated route on the map. But after my meeting in Newport, I did have to return to the Knight campus to finish some work for the day. With the Return to Start button to the right, I can automatically add the Knight campus as my third address. Now we can see that the trip was over 50 miles in total. If this looks correct, you can select Save Trip in the upper right-hand corner to add the mileage to the previous screen. Now the miles section has been filled in and the description has also been updated with the 3 addresses. Next is the deduction section that you will not be able to edit. After, we need to decide where the money is coming from, so please enter the appropriate FOPL in the allocation section. You would need to add fund, organization, and program codes. You can add more FOPLs if you need to split the cost between 2 funds or 2 orgs, for example. Finally, you'll be able to attach relevant invoices or receipts to prove the expense. You may not have anything for just mileage, but you might have a receipt for parking or tolls, which is required for reimbursements. Besides uploading right from your computer, you can also select a receipt from your Chrome River receipt gallery or upload it through the app. When you have verified that everything is accurate, you can select Save in the upper right-hand corner to add the expense to the report. The expense, along with any other expenses, will be added to the left-hand side of the screen. The total that is owed to you will appear at the bottom of that section and will automatically update with any added expense. Right now, it is $29.83 owed to me. On my way to the Newport campus, I drove through some tolls, so that will be the second expense that we are adding to this trip. Press Create New and select Tolls. This screen is going to look similar to the mileage screen. First, we're going to add the right date. For this example, our first trip was on June 2nd, so it's fine as it is. Next is where you will manually enter in the total price of the tolls. We'll say it was a $2 toll booth both ways, so we'll enter $4. After is business purpose, but that should once again be auto-filled from the expense report. Next is the description, where you can write any relevant information if necessary. In this case, you could put the name of the highway that had the toll, but it is optional. And then we have the allocation section for the FOPL. I'm going to use the same FOPL that I used for mileage. Lastly, attach the receipt or statement that you received from the tolls. Once you have verified everything, select Save in the upper right-hand corner to add the expense to the report. The total now reflects the mileage reimbursement and the tolls, for a total of $33.83. I'm also going to add parking in this example because I had to pay to park for this meeting. Make sure the date is correct, which in our case is June 2nd. Then manually enter the amount spent on parking. For this example, it was $8 to park. The business purpose should still be the same, auto-filled from the expense report. Next is the description, which is optional. For this example, you could put where you parked. Then we have the allocation section for the FOPLs. Once again, I'm going to use the same one that I've used previously. And lastly, I'm going to attach a receipt or statement that reflects the price of the parking. Once you have verified everything, select Save in the upper right-hand corner to add the expense to report. Our total now reflects all three expenses, bringing it to $41.83. Before I'm ready to submit this expense report, I'm going to add another mileage expense because I took another trip to Newport. This trip was on June 7th, so I'll update the date for this one. Everything else should be about the same. Next, I'm going to calculate the mileage again. I started at the night campus and I drove to the Newport campus. This time though, I did not return to the night campus and instead drove directly home from Newport. So I will not select Return to Start. After, select Save Trip to add the mileage. Once again, I will use the same FOPL that I've used for the previous trips. And then I will attach a receipt because I have one. And finally, select Save in the upper right-hand corner to add this trip to the overall expense report. Now with the 4 expenses added, our new total that is owed to us is $56.85. Over on the right, you'll be able to review each expense added and edit individual ones by selecting Edit in the upper right-hand corner. Now that I have verified that everything is accurate, I will select Submit at the bottom of the screen. This will bring up one final screen where you can once again review the information for accuracy. You'll see the total expenses and a collection of all the receipts and invoices you attached. You'll also see links to the specific routes for each trip added. Once again, select Submit in the upper right-hand corner to submit the expense report for review. On the Chrome River homepage, you'll now see the expense in the Submitted in the Last 90 Days category. Here you can select the expense report, view all the details, PDF versions of the report, and even recall the report at any time to make any necessary changes before submitting again. Select Recall at the upper right-hand corner if you wish to do that. From there, you can edit any part and once again submit it by following the same steps as above. While the report is submitted and pending review, you'll be able to track how far along it is by selecting Tracking at the top of the screen next to the PDF options. Here, you can see all of the routing steps and who is responsible for each step. Approvers will be able to approve via the website, the app, or by email.